Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today I got to attend a Nintendo event where I got to play some of the games that they were presenting over at E3 2018, and I figured I would do a video to share with you guys about those games. I'll be briefly touching up on Super Smash Bros. Because I'm not a super knowledgeable person when it comes to that particular series, but we'll also be talking about the Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee, and Pikachu, as well as Super Mario Party, Starlink, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and Killer Queen Black. These are all games that I actually got to play, with the exception of Super Mario Party, because the build that they had there was just a developer build. So while they showed us actual gameplay, we didn't actually get to play it. So anyways, let's get things started, and right off the bat, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, that was the first game that we got to play when we got to the event. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm not super knowledgeable about Super Smash Bros., so what can I really tell you about it? I can tell you that it feels great, very much to me in the same way that the Wii U version of Super Smash felt fantastic. Now, there was a person sitting next to me who basically repeatedly pummeled my face in because he knew a whole lot more about what he was doing in Super Smash than me, and he said that the game feels a lot faster than its Wii U counterpart. And naturally, we already know that there were a bunch of changes. You guys can watch the Nintendo Direct where they go into great detail about every single change that they did in the game. So what I can tell you is that I played some of the new characters. I played Inkling. Inkling is super fun. One of its attacks will actually slow other fighters down because it shoots them full of ink, and the mechanic of you actually having to reload the ink gives that character like its own thing, which I thought was kind of cool. And I really liked the moveset of that particular character. Felt super fun playing Inkling. I think it was actually the character I performed best as. And when I say I performed best as that character, it means that we finished the match and my score was only like -3 or something like that, okay? Then I played a little bit of Ridley, which is the new Metroid boss dude that joined in on the fray. And I got my ass handed to me because he's just such a massive target. But I've heard that he's pretty powerful, like he shoots fireballs out of his mouth and stuff. But basically the game feels super, super responsive. It's got the sweet, silky, smooth 60 FPS like. But to be completely honest, for a layman in that particular title like me, I don't feel that much difference from this one and the Wii U one. But the person sitting next to me assured me it felt a lot better. It felt faster. It felt more polished. He was, however, frustrated because his main character was Link, and apparently they nerfed Link's recovery, whatever that's supposed to mean, and he was a little bit upset about that. Anyways, moving onwards, let's talk about Pokemon Let's Go. Now, the version that I played was Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, but I saw a demonstration on Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Essentially, it is kind of like the same game. Now, the interesting thing about this title, because I did not look up anything before actually having experienced it myself, therefore, these are very much my first impressions, but essentially Pokemon Let's Go feels kind of like Pokemon Go, but without the go. Because like you see, when you play Pokemon Go, your objective is to go somewhere, pick up your Pokeballs, pick up your Pokemons. Well, in this, basically you go by going through the game. Now, an interesting thing is that unlike the tall grass in previous Pokemon games in Pokemon Let's Go, I'm just going to call it Let's Go. I'm not going to be going Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu. Let's just call it Pokemon Let's Go, okay? And you can pick whatever version you want from that. But in the tall grass, instead of you actually going into the tall grass and getting like a random encounter from a random Pokemon, you can actually see the Pokemon that are in the grass. Now, there are a couple of interesting Pokemon because you can't always figure out exactly which Pokemon is there, because maybe the grass is covering them up partially. I mean, I'm sure that hardcore fans will recognize the silhouettes immediately, but you know, there's a Pokemon like Oddish, for instance. He's got like that grassy thing on top of his head. So that particular Pokemon didn't, you know, when he shows up, it's cool because you almost can't see him in the tall grass. But anyways, there was also this modifier thing that they had in the tall grass, in the Pokemon that were in the tall grass, which there would be like an aura around it, and that would signify that this Pokemon was special in some way. So like you would have these ones that would have like a red aura around them. These would be like really big Pokemon, so you can get like a big Pikachu and a smaller Pikachu. Then you would have the blue aura, which would mean it would be a smaller one. I was told that you can actually see if a Pokemon is shiny while he's in the tall grass. I've not experienced this myself because you all know how friggin' rare shiny Pokemons are. You know, I think I found one when I was playing Pokemon Red. You know, one shiny Pokemon in the entire experience of playing through Pokemon Red. But anyway, you can actually see those in the grass before you actually engage them. Now, the interesting thing here that I was surprised by, because again, I didn't see that much material on this game, is the fact that you don't really fight wild Pokemon anymore. You essentially catch them the very same way that you catch them through Pokemon Go. So you throw your Pokeball and you catch them when the circle, you know, when it goes closer. When the circle's at its smallest, it will be your best chance to actually catch them. So there's that. There's also the little items like the berries that you can get, and you use those berries, and there's also Ultra Balls, stuff like that. And you collect all of these things while you are fighting the trainers, and you can find the hidden items throughout the world and all that. But I was surprised. I did not know that you would not actually be engaging other Pokemon, other wild Pokemon in combat. Now, the way that we played the game was we actually had the small little Pokeball thing. It actually feels fine for you to play with. It just has two things on that Pokeball, if you guys are curious, which is you have an analog stick, kind of like the same. It's not the same, it's a smaller version of an analog stick that you would get on a Joy-Con for you to move around. And then there's like a button in the front of the Pokeball, and the objective here is that you use the stick to select options on menu and to move your character around and do all of that stuff. And then you click on the stick whenever you want to select an option, and then the button that you have on the Pokeball works like the B button, so it keeps going back. Now, I actually thought that there was something that they might change this in the final version of the game. I'm not exactly sure how they would do it, but like, you know, for someone like me that I don't play Pokemon games all the time, but like on the 3DS version of a game, when you're in a combat, because even though you don't fight wild Pokemon in Pokemon Let's Go, you will still fight trainers and stuff like that. And in the 3DS versions, like when you were in a fight with a trainer, you could actually see the details of an attack, telling you exactly like what does Growl do, what does Tail Swipe do. And I know that all of you hardcore Pokemon dudes out there, guys, like, I know all that stuff by head. I know it all. I don't need to know, but it's like, you know, for someone like me that I haven't memorized every single move that exists in Pokemon games, like sometimes I might, what does Growl do again? I don't remember. There wasn't really an option for you to check up on that with the Pokeball. I believe you'll be able to do it if you're using a Joy-Con, because you'll be able to press the Y button, whereas the Pokeball doesn't really have that. So, you know, for hardcore fans, I think it'll be fine, but for people like me that are maybe just a little bit more casual getting into the game, you know, there's a little aspect that they might want to consider there. Anyway, playing with the Pokeball felt fine for the most part, so long as you know what each attack does, which I know that most of you guys do. Using the Pokeball to actually throw, I thought that was kind of cool, even though it was a little bit awkward for us because we had a wire coming out at the bottom of the Pokeball. We couldn't use the Pokeball loose from the rest of the stuff. But I played around with it for a little bit. I caught a couple of pokes. I fought a couple of trainers. Like, it felt fine. And in a way, it feels like a bit of a more casual version of Pokemon, as opposed to like the more hardcore versions that you have on the 3DS, where, you know, it feels a lot more technical, so to speak, whereas this one feels more like an entry-level Pokemon designed to capitalize on the success of the Switch and introduce a lot more people to the franchise, so that then they will be interested in playing the next iteration of the Pokemon game that I believe is going to be coming out next year, right? Which is a good thing, mind you. I think that's actually a good thing, because there's still a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people that have played Pokemon, but I think there's still a lot of people that haven't. Therefore, you know, having that kind of introduction there for people, I think it's a good thing, at least in my personal opinion. Now, you will be using motion controls for throwing Pokeballs, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, I freaking hate motion controls. But it's like, whether you're using it with the Joy-Con, where you'll be doing stuff like this, or you're using the Pokeball, where you'll be doing the same motion. We were not able to do the curved throw that you can do in Pokemon Go, because if you guys know, in Pokemon Go, you can do the little curved throw thing. We were not able to do that in that version of the game, but they told me that it's like, we don't know if that's going to be added or not. There's a possibility that that might be added, but I think it's going to feel very similar to what you usually experience when you're playing Pokemon Go. And some of you guys might not be wondering, okay, what about handheld mode? Am I going to be like jiggling my console like this? Is Is that what I'm gonna do? No, you're gonna be aiming it like if you're in AR mode, like you know how some games you can aim by moving your console like this. That's how you're gonna be doing it when you're in handheld mode. You're gonna aim the console to the Pokemon, and once you've aimed the console directly at the Pokemon, then you're gonna press down on a button, and once you press the button, the Pokeball will get thrown for you. I don't think Nintendo wants you to be doing this because, you know, accidents are gonna happen if you're jiggling your Switch around like that. You're gonna be throwing it to the ground, it's gonna fall, you're gonna be upset. Other than that, you will fight trainers, like I said. You'll also fight gyms. There's a lot of intentional nostalgia references for fans of the original anime. You will also see Brock as a gym leader, which I'll be honest, since I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, I was not aware that Brock was originally the first gym leader that Ash actually fought. But that is one of the things that they showed us in the demo. They showed Brock as the gym leader for this city that you're in. The game takes place in the Kanto region. I believe it is just going to be Generation 1 Pokemons, which is pretty cool. Just to get people involved and get people started on that. A new addition that they were talking about is that the gyms will now have an audience, whereas previously you didn't really have that in the previous Pokemons, but apparently you had that in the anime. So they basically want to make this game feel like you're a trainer in the anime. They want to capture the anime feel as close as they possibly can. Now, the other thing is the companion Pokemon, which you guys have clearly seen because it's Pokemon Let's Go Eevee or Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. And those two Pokemon, depending on which version of the game you end up buying, those are going to be your companion Pokemon. Now, you cannot exchange your companion Pokemon. So, like, if you buy Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, he is your companion Pokemon. Now, that doesn't mean that he is forced to be in your team, because you don't need to have him in your team, but he is going to be like always on your shoulder. And they're also saying that the Pikachu that is your companion, he has a couple of more details that are not present in regular Pikachu. He has better fur textures. He will be more detailed than the regular Pikachus that you will be able to capture out in the world. Same thing for Eevee. It will have more detail than the Eevees that you'll be able to capture throughout the world. And I know that there were a lot of people complaining about this one thing because I saw a bunch of Twitter posts and people screaming at Nintendo because when they showed the footage of the gym leader, not the gym leader, but you getting to the gym, there was a character there that was trying to teach you about the different types and the different types of Pokemon and the advantages, the type advantage. I think that's what you guys call it. So like stuff like fire burns leaf and stuff like that. And essentially, that guy said, okay, before you can come onto this rock gym, you have to show me a leaf Pokemon. And people were upset about that because they're like, what if I don't want to use a leaf Pokemon? You don't have to use a leaf Pokemon. You have to show him a leaf Pokemon. So you can go there, show him the leaf Pokemon, and then change your roster to suit whatever you want to do. You don't have to go into the gym with a leaf Pokemon equipped in your roster. Okay, so don't stress out too much about that. Another cool thing is that besides having a companion Pokemon that's going to hang out in your shoulders, essentially, you can also have one Pokemon of your choosing following you around. And the cool thing about this is the fact that the Pokemon size is actually represented in game. So something they showed us, for instance, was like he would have a Charmander following him around, and the second he said, oh yeah, the size of the Pokemon is represented, and I remembered that I saw, wait a second, I saw an Onix in your roster. Can you make Onix follow you? And he's like, yeah, and he puts Onix following him, and essentially, instead of having a giant Onix following you, your character would actually ride Onix, and he was pretty freaking big. Like that was cool. But yeah, it's like, to me, it sounds like an interesting game, especially for newcomers to the Pokemon franchise, because they're going to be just having the Gen 1 Pokemon, which is a lot simpler than the way stuff gets further down into the generations of Pokemon. As someone that has played quite a few Pokemon games, but not went super deep, like, stuff gets really complicated when you start delving deep into type advantages. Don't tell me it doesn't, okay? Don't even try. You know it does. But Yeah, I think it's a good entry point, and I think it's also good for like parents that maybe their kids enjoy Pokemon and they want to get started in Pokemon, and these parents maybe are a little bit fearful, like, you know, you don't want to let your kid go to the street alone to go catch Pokemon. This is something that they can do instead, except they're not going to be doing the whole go part, like I said. But again, there's still the old school fighting. I thought it was fun. It's a game that I will be checking out. I'm not sure how much time I will be devoting to it, but I am definitely curious for checking it out and playing it once it comes out. Then we had a presentation on Super Mario Party. And this is one of those games that's like, whenever I see a presentation on Mario Party, I'm at a Nintendo event and I see a presentation, naturally it's a controlled environment. There's going to be 4 people there that are readily available to play the game with you. And, you know, again, I did not play the game. I saw 4 people playing the game because only Nintendo staff could actually play this game because it's still very early development build, and they wanted to make sure that, you know, people didn't mess with the menus and whatnot. But anyway, whenever I see these games, they just look super fun. Everybody is laughing about what is happening on screen. But ultimately, the biggest problem of a game like Super Mario Party is that, like, look, this works if you have 4 people that are just as interested in playing this game as you. That is the only time this works. At least 4 people. I don't know if this game supports 8 people or whatever. The demonstration they gave us was 4 people. And you know, that's the biggest frustration, because like, you don't want to play this in online multiplayer because it's not going to be fun. You want to be in someone's face. Not to mention that not all of the mini games will be available to play in multiplayer. So it's like, that's the big caveat with this game. Having said that, one of the main things that they're adding to this game is that each character is going to have its own special die. Now, this is a die that instead of just having the regular numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it is going to have different variations. So like Diddy Kong had something where he would gain 2 coins when you roll the dice, so he would actually not gain movement, but he would gain 2 coins. Or you could get 0, or you could get 3 or 4 or something like that. And then you had other characters that would have dies that instead of having, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, would have like 1, 1, 3, 3, 7, 7 or something like that. Which is cool, because basically you'll want to use these special die. I mean, Bowser had a die that you could gain up to 10 movement. Now, the way that they were playing in 2v2, and, you know, there's multiple ways to play Super Mario Party. Naturally, this was just the mode that they've shown us. But playing in 2v2 actually seemed like it was a lot of fun because both characters would roll their die. You could choose between using a regular 1 to 6 die or their special die, and then you add those numbers up, and that's how much your characters can move. Now, the cool thing is the stomping on other characters. You're playing on this board, so you can basically go through your adversary's characters, and if your character just passes through them, you basically steal 1 coin off of them. But if your character actually finishes the movement on top of an enemy character, your character will stomp them and steal 5 coins off of them, which I thought was pretty cool. Again, I never played too much Mario Party, if I'm going to be completely honest. Another cool little thing I thought is that, you know, at the end of each turn you have the mini games, which give you additional chances of gaining coins, which you can then use to buy stars and gain, you know, get ahead in the game. But whenever you do a mini game, the team that wins, you have like this high five thing that you can do at the end, and that will give you additional coins. You know, it's a quirky little thing, but you know, it is funny in a party environment, I guess. They showed off the connected screens thing where you can play like this tank mini game, or you can have like the bananas thing. Pretty sure they showed off all this stuff at E3. But again, it's like, it seems like a really fun game if you have 3 other people that are interested in playing this game with you. This is a 4-player game minimum, and I think it will be a lot of fun because the mini games look like fun. But again, it's a couch co-op game. It's not really designed to be played online. So there's going to be a limited audience that will be interested in this. But for those people, I think you guys will have a lot of fun. I also played a whole bunch of Starlink, and for those of you that have been following me since I've heard of Starlink, you know that I'm hesitant but interested in this game. And after I played it, I really, really like this game, but there's a major problem with it. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to be doing a video just dedicated to Starlink because I actually got to capture footage from gameplay of it, where I will be going into greater detail about the gameplay mechanics and all about that. But basically, the very short version of Starlink is I like everything about this game except its business model, because from what I understand, if I'm interpreting things right, I've been looking at the Ubisoft website, and it's like they're being purposefully vague in my opinion, in the Ubisoft website, but my conclusion is like this. Look, you can finish the game with the starter set, and the starter set has a number of items that come with it, right? And you can finish the game with those items, but it is not going to be as fun as if you have more of the items, like more of the weapons and all these things, because you can do special combos by using different weapons, and that is where a big chunk of the game fun is. And speaking of which, just in case you guys are curious, I got to test out a bunch of different weapons that they had over there. And my favorite weapon that I enjoyed using the most is not in the starter pack, which makes a lot of sense, am I right? But yeah, like I said, I'm going to get more into detail about this game on a separate video. Another interesting reveal to me, because I started doing research on it, is that this game actually has split-screen co-op. Pretty cool. One of the downsides of playing it on a Nintendo Switch, though, is that you are going to be limited at 30 FPS. Having said that, the game still looks pretty damn good on the Switch, in my opinion. So if you are considering getting it on the Switch, that might be worth your time. But, you know, it's going to be completely up to each player. Again, I will get into much more detail on Starlink on a separate video, because I really want to do a bit of a deep dive on this game, because I am interested. I played some Dragon Ball FighterZ. I do already have a video on Dragon Ball FighterZ in the channel where I do an in-depth analysis of the PlayStation 4 version of this game. Naturally, since this was a Nintendo event, I got to play Dragon Ball FighterZ on the Nintendo Switch. And basically it's Dragon Ball FighterZ, you know? It will include all of the DLC characters that will be released up until launch. So I don't know what the release schedule has been like for DLC characters, but basically every character that has been released up until now will definitely be on the game. If more characters are released before the game launches on Nintendo Switch, all of those characters will be included in the Switch version of the game as well. This is what has been told to me. Again, all the information that is on this video is stuff that has been told to me by the Nintendo of Europe team. So if there's stuff that is, you know, inaccurate, it's not my fault, okay? This is stuff that they told me. Anyway, one of the most surprising things about Dragon Ball FighterZ for me was the fact that it actually runs at 60 FPS with a couple of drops. Now, whether or not they will be able to fix the drops so that it runs always at 60 FPS, I don't think it's a big deal, because I barely noticed the drops. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons I'm saying that it's 60 FPS with a few drops is because the Nintendo of Europe person that was there with me, he said, yes, this runs 60 FPS with a few drops. I was like, I just saw 60 FPS, and I was just like, I was surprised, because I did not expect, I thought that with the detail that game has, and with the engine, and, you know, just all of the stuff that happens in Dragon Ball FighterZ, I expected it to be 30 FPS. But run 60 FPS, I didn't get to play it in handheld mode, which was something that I was curious about. We only got to play the docked version of it, but it felt pretty friggin' solid. I basically felt when I started playing it, I felt like just like if I was playing on a PS4, basically. So super solid. If you still haven't gotten it and you've been holding out for the Switch version, good on you. You should definitely get it, because I think Dragon Ball FighterZ is a fantastic game. I already said that in my other video, and the Switch version looks like it's going to be super solid from what I've seen. Now, a lot of you guys are probably curious about how I feel on Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. Now, this is basically the same demo that we've had from the Japanese store. As a matter of fact, you can still download it now if you want to. You can basically go to the Japanese store and download the Japanese demo of Monster Hunter Double Cross, which is essentially a demo that I've played. Difference is it was in English, so I didn't actually have to, you know, translate stuff, which made it easier for me to have a look at the Brave style and actually understand like what was going on and different moves that you had. So I played a little bit of Brave style with Charge Blade, and I gotta say, Monster Hunter World has really spoiled me, because I struggled. I'll probably be showing footage because I was able to capture it off screen. I'll probably be showing some footage of that during this portion of the video, and you guys will see I'm getting my ass kicked up and down by this friggin' Barioth, and I was able to kill it in the end without dying. But yeah, it was a bit of a struggle. But I gotta say, the Brave style really got me in the mood for playing Generations Ultimate. Like, it just seems like a really interesting playstyle. Better than Striker, better than Guild. Like, it it just feels like it really brings a lot of depth into the gameplay, and that is something that I really want to delve into. I did not try out Alchemy style because, as you guys can imagine, with all these games and me having to divide my time through all these games and then still come back home and do a video on it, you know, my time was limited. But anyways, yeah, I enjoyed what I've played of it, and I'm super pumped for playing Generations Ultimate when it comes out on the Switch. So, finally, another game that we played was Killer Queen Black. Now, this was actually a game I wasn't even planning on looking on, just because it doesn't seem like it's my style of game, but I have to say it was really fun. So the way we played this is this is a 4v4 game. I think there were two switches there, and we were basically playing Team Deathmatch 4v4. And the way it works is you got 3 workers and 1 queen. Now, I'm assuming this is going to have matchmaking and stuff like that for multiplayer, because naturally you're not going to be able to get 8 people in the same location all the time to play this game. So, like I said, you have 3 workers and 1 queen. Now, the queen is able to fly and attack, and the workers can't do any of that. However, the workers can use these berries that you are collecting throughout the game to transform themselves, and you can get like this laser pistol, or you can get a mace type weapon, or you can get a sword, which essentially makes your worker have the same move set as a queen. Now, there are 3 ways to win the game, I believe, which is there's the military victory, which is basically kill the enemy queen 3 times. You do that, you win the game. There is the snail victory, which is there's a snail like at the very bottom of the screen, and workers can mount the snail and like move it towards their side of the map. If you move the snail all the way over to your side of the map, which takes quite a bit of coordination and effort, you win. That's the snail victory. And then the other victory is the economic victory, where you can collect a certain number of berries. I don't remember how many berries it was, but you can collect these, deposit them back at your base, and you win if you collect enough of those. Now, I actually thought this game was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the versatility of the worker more than the queen, because like when I first saw the game, I was thinking, okay, so everybody's going to be fighting over who is going to be the queen. Now, the queen is without a doubt the most important character in the board, but the workers, I would argue, are a little bit more fun because they can create a lot of chaos, and the situations that we've seen were really cool. Like, as a matter of fact, the very final match that we did, I was like, okay, now I'm going to be playing an offensive worker. And I got all 3 kills on the enemy queen, and I was like, hells yeah. That felt so good. So it's a really fun game. It reminds me a lot of Towerfall Ascension, if you guys play that. It's a super arcadey looking title. But it is fun. I just hope that the matchmaking and whatnot is up to snuff. But I will be curious to checking this out. But anyways, this was just to let you guys know my thoughts on all of the games. Like one of the big things for me here was, you know, interestingly enough, was a third-party title, which was Starlink, because I've been really curious about Starlink. Got to play a whole lot of it, and again, I like everything about that game except the business model, but you can expect a full detailed video on that. Other than that, like I said, Dragon Ball FighterZ, super solid, 60 FPS, cool game. Super Mario Party, if you have 4 people, cool game. Pokemon Let's Go, actually I think I'm more interested in this than I've been in previous Pokemon games. Could be due to the fact that it's also on the Switch, but the visuals also looked a lot nicer, and it looks like a more accessible Pokemon where I'm not going to be having to go to the internet all the time to figure out how shit works. And GU, I mean, I've been hyped for GU already, so that's not really a big surprise there. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this this little video here talking about the Nintendo event that I was at today. As per usual, comments and feedback in the comment section below. If you guys enjoy my videos, remember, subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you're actually notified whenever there's a new video. At this point, we will have the end slate. If you guys want to watch any of these 2 videos, just click on the relevant video and you'll be taken there. Otherwise, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.